Never actually given a keynote address before, so bear with me. It's rough. So Western Montana Growers Cooperative began in 2002. Lake County Community Development received a Community Food Systems grant, and basically they were looking at ways that the local food system could be improved. So they brought in a group of small farmers, asked them what their needs were, and eventually, through a series of conversations, came up with the idea of a cooperatively owned wholesale marketing and distribution service as the best way to not only for the farmers to access wholesale markets, but then also to meet customer needs as far as dealing with multiple farms that way. The idea of the cooperatively owned service was important. It allowed producers to aggregate their products together, but also maintain their individual farm identities. The co-op, as a rule, we don't actually buy food from the producers, rather we're just marketing and distributing it for them. At the same time, they're able to pool their resources and share some of the costs associated with the operations and distribution. For the customers, this provides a comprehensive product line, and they're able to access multiple farms with one transaction. Essentially, we look at why people would choose to do business with a company such as Cisco, and there's a lot of benefits to that, as we were talking about earlier. There's definitely things that could be changed with it, but as far as the efficiencies go, there's a lot we can learn as producers and how to make it easier for the customers to purchase local products. So we're trying to learn some lessons with that, and this is our 10th year of operations, and we've learned a few hard lessons along the way, but we're slowly making our way. So we incorporated in 2003, began operations that year. Initially it was about 6 growers. I think the first year we grossed about $10,000 of sales. And slowly began to grow. We began to get a diverse range of producers. It began just with fruit and vegetables. And then we developed some other product lines. We have now got dairy, eggs, cheese. We do grains, lentils, other pulse crops, meats, and then now some value-added products as well. Producers range greatly in size and scope. They're located primarily in western Montana along the Highway 93 corridor. As far north as Rollins, Montana. As far south as Hamilton. We expect to move about 500,000 pounds of food this year with our 40 or so producers. So we've grown quite a bit, but we're still on the learning end of things, I feel like. Our initial focus with customers, we began with restaurants. That basically was an easy market to begin with because they didn't require such huge volumes, and they were also really eager to buy really fresh local product. At this point, about over 70% of our sales go through some sort of grocery store, either a health food store or some of the bigger chain type stores. And then 2006, we began selling to the University of Montana, which is really where our forays began into the institutional marketplace. At this point, institutions are roughly 10% of our business. University of Montana was a great place to start because they had a lot of help on their end. They basically created a mandate with a lot of help from Chrissy to buy. I think the initial percentage was 15% of their food locally, and either within Montana or regionally. As many of you know, they've gone above and beyond this. I think they're over 20% now, and there was just an article in the paper they're going to buy over $1 million worth of local food this year from Montana producers. So it's pretty. They provide a great partner for us to work into that. So. More recently, we began working with different public schools. That's been really satisfying for a lot of our growers because many of them have children in school, so they like to see them eating the same good food at home or at school that they do at home. So our success here is really just beginning, we feel like, and I definitely have to give credit where credit's due, and that's to Montana Food Corps and also the National Food Corps team, I suppose. Carl talked about that earlier, but those guys have just done a tremendous job for really facilitating the access for these people to buy local food, even if it's just for snacks, getting a few different items in there. But it's such a tremendous amount of labor involved to do that. It's something we really couldn't have done on our own. We're super tight on staff. We generally work on pretty tight margins, so it's not something we really could have afforded to do. It's now a really big growing part of our business. We do different value-added things to them, and we're really hoping to expand on that. Sometimes the biggest hurdle for new accounts is just getting in the door, and having folks like that really helps. I mean, maybe NCAT should look into getting a food court for hospitals, perhaps, to help that along. After seeing some success with the schools, we decided last winter that perhaps hospitals could be a good market for us. So obviously hospitals go through a lot of food, and you can see by the size of the buildings. I mean, we've been talking about some of their food budgets, and it's really tremendous. There's not a heck of a lot of really large food purchasers in Montana. So really, if we want to see really affect a change in the system, we're going to have to be able to get our local food into these systems. And that means working with folks like hospitals, because they're feeding a lot of people, and it's a good effort to make. So again, I say we decided to approach it, but then again, we've also relied on other people to help us out along the way. We partner with a few different people for distribution. I think I passed that part up, but we distribute food pretty much throughout Montana, up and down the Highway 93 corridor, West Glacier, down to Hamilton, and then we also move food to Butte, Helena, Great Falls, Billings, and Bozeman. We partner with a company called Charlie's Produce out of Spokane. They help us move our food around, and we've used other distributors in the past. We have a couple of small trucks that we operate ourselves, but we really look to offset some of the costs by partnering with folks. So with our partnership with Charlie's, we were able to kind of meet some new accounts that way. So we set up a meeting with the chef in Missoula, who you all may know now. And then we also met another chef at a different hospital at one of the farm to table events that Western Sustainability Exchange had set up in Missoula. So we've always had these things pushing us along. And then once again, our friends at the Community Food and Agriculture Coalition and NCAT arranged a different meeting this winter with other decision makers in the hospital chain. So we really try to expound upon the conversation about how we can work together, not only just to provide food to, say, the cafeterias or into the rooms or the catering services, but really for a system-wide change to getting their employees interested in the local food and so them to buy into it. We also happen to operate a multi-farm CSA now, which for those who don't know stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Essentially, it means you're getting a share of vegetables from a farm or collective of farms, as it were, each week throughout the growing season. So we've been doing that since 2008. So throughout this conversation with the hospital, we started coming up with the idea. I believe that Chrissy brought it up. Once again, she's leading the way for us. And we were like, well, why don't we give it a try? So we set up a pilot project where we provided 50 CSA shares to the hospital if they're able to offer to their employees as a form of employee benefit. So then they can do it before taxes, pay for it. They can also pay for it out of pocket if they choose, but they can all pick it up right there at work, right before they go home. And we were just about to finish up our first season doing this. It's been really exciting for us. We're really looking forward to the reviews, analyzing some of what they have to say, and it really provides a big opportunity to expand that part of our program. Wholesale side of things, we got to start this year. It's been slow for several reasons, which we can get into here in a little bit. But the important part is we've got a beginning now. So we're going to work really hard this winter, meeting with the purchasers and try to develop a good program to meet their needs and to really continue what we began this year. So I was thinking about the hospitals. I was trying to figure out a way to model this to where we can approach these as a series of problems. So I came up with 5 issues that that we're going to have to deal with, and many of you probably will have to deal with as well if you're going to sell to some of these healthcare institutions or other institutions for that matter. But we can just kind of go through them. Much of them we've sort of talked about already. But first one I call just the lack of recent history. So when you see food and hospitals in the same sentence, first thing, and this may offend some people, and it comes to your mind is gross. It's not what hospitals are known for, and obviously there's a lot of work being done on that to change those public assumptions. But for me, as somebody trying to market food, that presents an obvious opportunity that we can present them with this great food source that they can turn around and then use as a marketing tool. That was really helpful for the University of Montana. So they're going above and beyond buying all this local food, but then they're able to double their money because that also counts as part of their marketing budget. They can turn that into advertising. Hospitals can do the same thing, as we were talking about. Likewise, promoting the idea of whole foods being integral to the healing process. I mean, both before being sick and just healing afterwards. So we were talking, I think Martin commented earlier, and these guys affirmed that there is data to support that it can help move the process along, which is a huge cost saver right off the front there. So second challenge is what I call institutional reticence. By this, it's really easy for large institutions to kind of be stuck in their ways and not very willing to change. Doing things like working with a small local growers cooperative might be a very foreign idea to many of them. So we've made some inroads, but it certainly presents its challenges. So as I mentioned earlier, we do our best to try to make it easy for people to buy food from us. So we've developed some systems of efficiency, and that helps just going in the door. But beyond that, the best thing is really just cultivating these relationships. I mean, it starts with your food purchasers, but it's got to really be system-wide. They're going to have people, as we heard about earlier, they're going to have to deal with the food when it goes in there. So it's you have to sell the food essentially to the people who are interested in it to begin with. And there's got to be some movement on their end, and then they can sell it to their higher-ups. I mean, you want to have them work for you essentially and help them sell your product. If you're getting a good quality product in there, it should be able to sell itself once they begin to use it and they see the benefits for it. But ultimately, you can never get into these places if you don't have those individual relationships. And it's really become apparent to me this year how much that actually means. We've had a few different accounts where personnel have changed around, places where we thought were rock solid, and then all of a sudden a single person leaves, and then that throws everything into chaos. And it really goes to show that not only having good relationships with individuals, but multiple individuals. And this goes for anybody you're going to sell to, but just trying to meet their needs as best as possible. Third point is regulatory challenges. Touched on that a little bit, but one thing, most of you that sell food, probably all of you already have some form of liability insurance coverage. If you don't, you definitely should. It's pretty much a fact of life for whatever you want to think about it personally. But many of the hospitals, especially those that work under contract with food service providers, they require higher insurance coverage than your average grocery store does. So it's something to take into consideration. We once we began our work with some hospitals, we had to upgrade our insurance policy, and it essentially tripled in cost for the year. So it's something to look at going into it. Obviously, you have to look at how much that's going to cost you and how much product you're going to be able to sell there. And it's simple cost benefit, but it is something to take into consideration. And this, of course, is where I can plug the cooperative model, and that we're able to share some of these costs over a multitude of farms. But it is something to consider. The next one is food safety regulations. The Food Safety and Modernization Act passed. They're still in the process of writing the rules and implementing them, but there probably will be changes underway. We're certainly thankful that people trust us as growers, and obviously we make sure that we're working with growers who care about their product and obviously plan on producing healthy food for everybody. But that's something to be aware of moving forward, and I think it'll affect some of the larger buyers, especially the institutional type buyers, more so than say your small natural food stores. But staying ahead of the curve is probably going to be the best solution. We're going to begin a program to train all of our growers and approve good agricultural practices to make sure everybody's on the up and up. just so we're not caught without. So, fourth challenge is supply. As we keep mentioning, these guys like consistency, they like efficiency. Many natural food produce buyers or restaurants are really happy, and sometimes they like the quirks in dealing with the local food system. Sometimes it can become endearing to them, but many of the institutional markets, they don't have time or resources to deal with it. So if we really want to make an effort to get more food into these places, we would do our best not to waste their kitchen staff's time with errors or product that doesn't meet the quality standards, etc. So one thing we've tried to work on this year with the few hospitals we're working with is really pick a few items that'll work, that you're comfortable with, and that you can provide consistently. And it's about baby steps, and we're going to be in it for the long haul, so we want to start off slowly and work our way into it. The other thing that we've talked about briefly as well is the processing aspect. We have a partnership with Mission Mountain Food Enterprise Center in Ronan to do some processing of vegetables for some kitchens. As much as they may want to, they're not going to chop down carrots or what have you. So that's something we're looking into, especially on the fresh vegetable end, making people aware that it is available, and also developing the process as we go along, so we can work together and meet some of their pricing needs. We found working with schools, actually, especially on the value-added end, that by buying in bulk, because it's processed, we can do a lot of second-grade product. We're able to be quite competitive in price, which is really surprising for us. That's actually the last point I was going to bring up, is pricing, which has always been difficult for us. We're mostly organic, naturally grown, so we sort of start off at a higher price point than many of our other conventional distributors. So that's something we've had to deal with. The other solution is working with the economy of scale, of course. I mean, these big buyers can go through a lot of individual products, so that can help you be a little bit more competitive price-wise. Next steps, conclusions. I kind of look at this as creating awareness on both sides of the delivery truck, as it were. I mean, for hospitals and these buyers, just trying to create an understanding with them that there are other options out there besides the status quo. It may require some more legwork initially. For growers, it's realizing the enormous potential that these markets hold. I mean, they're huge, and really could be significant for our food volumes if we can make it work. So we would do well to work slowly with them and really make an effort. Theme of this event is healthy farms and healthy people. So for growers, farmers, there's a few of you in here that work directly in that. You understand that farming is more than just a business to you. We think of it as it's an expression of faith that by nurturing something as tiny as a seed, you're able to provide sustenance for others. Not only is fresh, nutritious food is a cornerstone for healthy living, and hospitals happen to have a mission to produce or to care for the health and well-being of citizens. So it seems a pretty natural fit for the two to work together. We're really interested in making it work, so I think we should work together and do it. That's about it for now, and we can get to questions.
So, will you talk about what happens with, like when you're talking to the hospital, do you say this is the produce we can provide, or are you saying to your growers, the hospital wants this, and they're?
We try to work from a demand in first, generally. We spend a considerable amount of time each winter talking with most, if not all, of our customers. We have a certain process down with people we've worked with for a long time. We generally know their needs, but especially new customers, we find out what they're, how many carrots used per week, and then we can look at how many weeks we generally have carrots available, and then say, hey, we need this many pounds of carrots. So we compile all that with all of our customers, and then we bring that information to our producers. And we have a sort of a built-in hierarchical system where people commit to grow certain items, and those that have committed to do certain ones have the right to continue to do so. So we definitely look at the market first. We would get in trouble really easily with the farmers if we told them to grow a lot of food and didn't have anywhere to go with it.
What's your capability to expand? I mean, I'm just wondering if you go out and get, I don't know, 5 new accounts all of a sudden.
Sure, that's a good question.
Do you have the growers to meet the needs?
We have some growers that have the potential to expand, but one thing we're really starting to look at now is working with other producers in different parts of Montana. We've had some interest in folks in Flathead Valley, Gallatin Valley, where there is more production, and being able to work with them. It's certainly easier for me to have our same growers just grow more. I mean, it's less for me to deal with on a given day, but ultimately they can only grow so much. So there's a lot of ground in Montana. You can grow plenty of food. We could feed quite a few Montanans with the amount of space we have versus the amount of people. So I don't think supply will be the issue in the long run.
You said earlier that you train your growers, your CSA growers, to make sure that they're all on the same page organically. How do you regulate that you yourself?
Sure. So it's something that we really need to do a better job of, especially we have people that are really new growers that want to join the co-op, and it's pretty tough for us to expend the staff time to really spend the time and train them. We rely on a lot of grower-to-grower interactions. But especially this winter, we're partnering with the Food Enterprise Center and also the National Good Food Network to provide some grower trainings, especially in food safety, because that's going to become a pretty important issue. But also just how to provide food for the wholesale marketplace for a lot of people who are used to just selling vegetables at the farmer's market. Selling food to grocery stores or other buyers is a different deal. And there's a whole packaging component that they're not used to dealing with. So, we have a list of quality standards for different items that they need to meet and some of the packaging, but it's really something that we could do a better job of. We've relied pretty heavily on the growers having some experience going into it. So.
What do you call on your backhauls or those Charlies? Because when you come down with Helena or Butte.
Yeah, so our 2 trucks essentially we operate just on north and south, and we'll backhaul some items that we do bring in inventory. If, for instance, when we go north to the Flathead Valley, we'll drop off stuff, but then on the way back we can pick up eggs from our egg producer and apples. Same with when our truck goes out to deliver CSA boxes, that then it happens the same day as a wholesale sales day, so then they turn around, they're picking up stuff for the wholesale. So we definitely try to be as efficient as possible. And anytime your truck's running empty, it's just costing you money. So with Charlie's, it's different. They're their own thing. They just will charge us essentially by the piece to move stuff around. So we, obviously we want them to be efficient because we want them to keep helping us out. But they do different things. We have talked about, partnering with some of the growers in the Gallatin Valley, especially for bringing food back over our way, because they're dropping our food off of there. And there's a lot of potential there. They're a little bit limited in how much extra time they have available, and we don't want to take too much advantage of them. We feel like we have a little bit already, but there's some room to grow there for sure.
Could you explain just the insurance a little more? You said that they actually buy it collectively?
Sure. Well, we have the co-op has an umbrella policy that it'll cover everything that our growers sell through the co-op, everything that we sell. We encourage most of our growers to have their own, especially the larger ones, and many of them have to because they also maintain accounts outside the co-op. But anything that we sell from our growers, it covers them. So, we've always had a policy, but then once we began selling to some of these larger markets, they have rules that make you have a bigger aggregation for your limits. So we just had to up that to meet their requirements.
You talked a little bit about food processing with Mission Mountain. Do you see any advantage or any opportunity in the future to do food preservation? Farmers often are surplus more than they can sell, and then even out that.
Absolutely, yeah. So we are starting to do some of that, like freezing some products. We've developed a couple things in partnership with these guys. Lindsay works at the Food Enterprise Center there. We now do a frozen pitted flathead cherry. We do a butternut squash that's cubed and blanched still. And then people can custom order things for some of the schools and the university. Recently, they've done shredded zucchini and shredded carrots that they'll use for baking in some of their bakeries. So it's a big deal because I mean it's such a short growing season in Montana, and anything we can do to extend that is going to be beneficial. And one of the important things for us was gaining the year. We operate year round. We have dairy and eggs and stuff, but obviously the produce is a pretty big bell curve there. So we anything we can do to kind of up that baseline product that we have year round. I mean, just as a distributor, that's going to help us out. So it's something we're really interested in, and a lot of customers are interested in because that gives them access to local product for a greater time of year.
Do you have any agreements that the producers have to sign that they have to give you a certain percentage? You said some of them sell outside. And then also, how do you identify who the members are to like an institutional brand?
Sure. So for the first part, it's actually something we're working on right now to update. We've had a marketing agreement for a long time, but as far as language for the rules involved with who can sell where, it's been really vague. So we're working on that. We probably won't do a percentage of production, but more so if we already have existing accounts and you're not already selling to that account when you join the co-op, that we have to go through the co-op for that account essentially. Because especially for places that are closer by to us, so we operate on a gross margin for what the things we sell to cover our operating expenses. But if it's a account that's close by to a grower, they have less incentive to really send their food to the co-op. They may just as well call them up and take it there themselves. But meanwhile, they're not going to drive their food all the way to Billings or Bozeman themselves. So then that leaves us with the more expensive accounts. So we're working to develop the policy a little bit. We just had a meeting on that this week. But it is something to take into consideration. For the other part, we have a labeling system. It's basically stick-on labels that the growers write on, but it has the grower name, the product, date, weight, etc. So every box that goes out has the grower name on it, so everything's source identified. We work with a lot of produce departments doing little point-of-sale cards that have little pictures of the farmer on it and things like that, just to put a face behind it. But everything is from a specific farm. We can always tell you which one it is.
Great, thank you so much, Dave.